All right, let's go on now with our segment Tools for These Times, the segment where we use 80s and 90s music together with practical psychology to help navigate modern life a little more consciously. And after tonight's previous conversation about future anxiety, social instability, loss of long term certainty, and people feeling emotionally exhausted by modern life, I think tonight's topic becomes very clear. So, tonight's problem is chronic future anxiety and emotional paralysis. You know, that feeling when the future starts feeling unclear, unstable, and foggy, not necessarily one giant disaster happening, but constant economic uncertainty, technological change, social fragmentation, AI anxiety, housing anxiety, and career instability, for instance. And eventually, the nervous system starts living in anticipation mode, always slightly bracing emotionally. And many people today are not relaxing psychologically anymore. They are monitoring reality constantly. And over time, in the long term, that creates fatigue, hopelessness, doom scrolling, avoidance, and emotional paralysis. Because when people stop believing that their effort leads somewhere, then motivation slowly begins collapsing. So the first song that will remind us about this problem is Ship of Fools by World Party. And this is one of the most underrated songs about collective confusion. Maybe it wasn't a top classic of the 80s, but it is uh, a very helpful song due to its lyrics. The song feels like watching civilization drift emotionally, with system moving without direction, people moving without trust, and a world feeling psychologically unstable. And in its lyrics, you can listen to this line: "We are on a ship of fools." And emotionally, many people today secretly feel exactly like that. Like society itself sometimes feels overstimulated, fragmented, and uncertain about where it's heading. And psychologically, constant instability creates a very dangerous feeling. There is learned helplessness, the sensation that nothing can really be controlled anymore. And once people emotionally reach that point, many stop. Many stop planning, stop dreaming, or building something. And this is where tonight's psychological tool becomes very important. Our tool, our psychological tool will be grounding through present oriented action. So it doesn't matter much the name of this technique. Um, and it sounds simple, but it's actually powerful because anxious minds constantly try to solve the entire future in 5 seconds. But human beings emotionally cannot stabilize themselves while mentally living 5 years ahead every day. So, grounding techniques help bring attention back to our actionable reality. What we can do now is what I tell you at every closing of each live stream. Do what you can with what you have. So it's not everything that could happen, but what can actually be done now. And this doesn't mean denying reality. It means refusing to let the brain permanently live inside this catastrophic projection. So let's see the trap of the mind in this situation, because future anxious minds often believe if I worry enough, maybe I will gain control. But psychologically, constant worry rarely creates clarity. It usually creates exhaustion. And many people today are mentally spending enormous emotional energy on futures that haven't even happened. So, grounding works by reconnecting people with small concrete actions. Simple things like organizing one part of your life, walking, calling somebody, learning one practical skill, cleaning your space, writing plans for this week instead of mentally surviving the next 20 years, and small actions psychologically restore agency. And agency reduces helplessness. So, the solution song that will remind us to apply this technique is going to be Beautiful Boy, Darling Boy by John Lennon. And this may contain one of the most psychologically important lyrics ever written about anxiety. Because in the middle of all the uncertainty, John Lennon suddenly says the unforgettable phrase, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. And that line is incredibly powerful psychologically because anxious minds often become so obsessed with future control that they stop emotionally participating in the present moment. And many people today are so busy preparing for life that they accidentally stop living it, right? And the real psychological message tonight is not ignore the future. It's don't abandon the present while fearing the future. Because meaning is often rebuilt through small moments, such as real conversations, good music, friendship, creating something, helping someone, cooking or walking, or laughing, resting properly, and being emotionally present. And those small moments are not meaningless. They are often the foundation of psychological resilience. So, human beings historically survived difficult periods not because they controlled everything around them, but because they preserved meaning and community and some routines, and they used creativity and human connection inside that uncertainty environment. And that still matters today. So if modern life increasingly feels like a ship of fools, then maybe one of the healthiest things people can do psychologically is stop trying to emotionally control the entire ocean and instead reconnect with the next meaningful step directly in front of them. And sometimes that alone begins restoring hope. All right, everyone, that's been tonight tools for these times, and we're going to start to wrap up tonight live stream with the final thoughts in the editorial segment.